Good morning again. Wow, Hartman Public School, you got me. I thought I couldn't have got any more emotional after the performance about refugees on Wednesday, but that was quite something. So thank you to all of our students and to Blue for their blessings this morning. So I'd like to say another thank you to our performance. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do tomorrow when I wake up and I have no blessings and I have no music and I have no students. So thank you all. Some housekeeping reminders to those of you who are joining us for the first time. We're encouraging you to use social media to continue the conversation. There is a YRDSB guest Wi-Fi, so the username is Quest and the password is Quest2016. And the hashtag is YRDSBQuest. So please continue the conversation. I'm at Carol Campbell 4, and I'm following along as you're all tweeting and responding and bringing some of that up to the conversation that we have. And I know that Shelly will be following along as well. For those of you who are using the Quest app, we have prizes today, so please continue following on for those of you that are involved. If you need help, there's a service desk where you can get support, as well as all the wonderful keynotes and workshops and presentations. We have a Quest playground, and I know people are determined to finish that jigsaw, so please make sure you get to the Quest playground and some of the other resources that are here. So I have a new co-anchor today. So I started with Michael Fullen, who will be rejoining us this afternoon for another conversation, and then Hannah Alper yesterday. So my co-host for today is Brennan Wong. It's my pleasure to welcome Brennan. Brennan's bio reads, passionate about activism, youth engagement and innovation. Brennan is a 19-year-old social entrepreneur and advocate for youth-driven community impact. In 2013, he founded Pledges for Change, a student-run, not-for-profit organization and global movement that inspires action through initiatives that educate youth worldwide about social issues and empowers them to take action. Having been recognized as a 2016 Global Teen Leader, 2016 Global Change Maker, and one of Canada's top 20 under 20, Brennan believes that young people are uniquely positioned to enact social change through innovation as global citizens. And YRDSB, you must be doing something very special, because Brennan is also one of your alumni, as is Hannah, a Richmond High School alumnus. He's currently in his second year at Western. I should point out, I work at the University of Toronto, and we're about to have Western and Ryerson on the stage. But anyway, Brennan is a Western University National Scholar. Please join me in welcoming Brennan Wong this morning. Thank you. So Brennan, tell us about your experiences of school. What did you love about school, and what would be your message to future high school students?
Yeah, I think one of the most incredible opportunities that I had at Richmond Hill High School back 2 years ago when I graduated was the opportunity to get involved outside of the classroom. And the amount of inspiration that I was able to receive from both my teachers, my peers, people around me, it was just an incredible and awesome experience, and I would have never been able to get involved if it hadn't been for my peer community, my student community, my school community, everyone coming together passionate about something, passionate about getting involved. That was the most important and incredible moment for me.
Thank you. And we have a room full of people who are involved in education in some capacity, and we're asking this question about how do we support students to go deeper in their learning, to understand global changes? What's your advice to this education community?
Yeah, I think and this is such a loaded question, I think one of the biggest pieces of advice that I could give is definitely to support your students 100%. And what I mean by that is not just engage them in their learning, but empower them to go further than that. Empower them to do something about what they learn in the classroom, go back out there into the community and actually do something about what they've learned, and empower them to take action and create change in the world.
Thank you. And you know, Hannah said similar points about listening, supporting, empowering, and engaging. And I think that's a very powerful message. You know, yesterday one of the questions I was asked was, how do we measure the impact of deep learning on students, to students? Well, it's not on or to, it's us learning together, co-learning, co-developing it, and being the change, hopefully. So Brennan, I know that you are going to take us into exciting territory this morning because you are arranging our climate hack to action. Okay, so not all of us know what a climate hack to action is. Tell us a bit more.
Yeah, well, actually, I had an opportunity to work at the Brookfield Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Ryerson University this past summer. And they were the organization that helped join forces with the York Region District School Board to put together the Climate Hack to Action. So we actually have Sean Mullen, who's the executive director of the Institute, here with us today. And I'd actually like to introduce him on stage.
So Sean, nice to meet you and thank you for joining us. So tell us about the Brookfield Institute and the work that you're involved in.
For sure, and thank you very much for having me here today. Yes, so the Brookfield Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, we're a new institute. We're housed at Ryerson University downtown, and our mandate is very simple. It's to try and help Canada to be the best place in the world to be an innovator or an entrepreneur. And when you think about an ambitious vision like that, it means you have to look across all expanses of what it means to support innovation and entrepreneurship, and a very important part of that is skills development and helping young people think about these things, exposed to these opportunities, and take part in activities such as the climate hack to action that we help put together.
So I'm sure there's a lot of audience members out here who are wondering, what is a hackathon? So could you maybe tell us a little bit more about what a hackathon is and sort of the goals of even climate hack to action?
Sure. I'm happy to walk through those two pieces. Hackathon is kind of a phrase that's becoming increasingly used today. It's something that came out of the startup world. 10, 15 years ago, the idea of we have a hard, really complex problem. Let's just drop everything we're doing, whether we're in a small company or otherwise, bring everyone together and just work for 24 hours, 48 hours, and bring everyone's different perspectives and diversity and effort to bear on the problem. And that's essentially the origins of a hackathon. It's evolved, and it's evolved as the success of these activities has morphed from out of just say the tech world or trying to solve a technological problem into how can we use these tools, which is about bringing diversity of opinion, diversity of skill sets, facilitated, structured environments into a very focused 24-hour, 48-hour window to try and get interesting outcomes that are not traditional in terms of trying to solve problems. And so now we're seeing these tools being used on things like public policy problems or wicked challenges that go beyond just how to help a company grow. And that's what Climate Hack to Action is. It originally started, we as an institute did an event last spring with the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change. We brought together about 100 different participants from across the GTA, and the idea was how can we as a society change individual behavior to try and reduce our climate footprints. And so we had 40 teams come together and spend about 48 hours and came with different approaches to trying to tackle that problem. And at the end of that period, they pitched in front of a group of judges. There was prizes, and we had some really fascinating outcomes. And one thing that should be said in this room for sure is a team of YRDSB high school students actually came third. So and this was them competing against people from university backgrounds, from business folks and others, and they banded together, a team of 6, and came up with an idea that really impressed the group. And I think they also would have won the Audience Favorites Award if that was an award as well. But that was a great event, and that led us to say, well, what could we do more directly with YRDSB, and what could be a way that we could tap into the potential of high school students, and that's what this activity was just a week and a half ago.
Well, thank you, Sean, for joining us, and thank you, Brendan, for being my co-host today. I'm kind of excited. I wish I'd known in advance. Now I want to be part of the hackathon.
Absolutely.
I want Tom Zimmerman to give me feedback. What opportunity for the children and young people that are going to be involved today. So that's going to be in the grand ballroom after our keynote speech for those of you that are interested. It's now my pleasure to thank both of you and see you next, and to welcome our keynote speaker who's up next. So thank you both, Sean and Brendan. All right, for those of you who are determined you're going to win today, the app game for this keynote is 7740. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Shelly Sanchez Terrel, who has been with us throughout Quest and who is an active social media user. So she has been tweeting away and she's been participating in lots of conversations. She's a teacher trainer, an e-learning specialist, and author of the 30 Goals Challenge for Teachers, Small Steps to Transform Your Teaching and Learning to Go. Recently, she was named Woman of the Year by Star Jones National Association of Professional Women, awarded a BAMI Award as a founder of #EdChat, and named as one of the 10 most influential people in EdTech for 2015 by Tech and Learning. Her latest project is the creation of edspeakers.com to enrich the field of education with passionate voices, spoken and written, from those of diverse experiences and backgrounds. And she has a phenomenal set of resources online that I've had the pleasure of researching and learning as we prepared for today. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Shelly to you this morning.
Oh, thank you so much. It was wonderful. Well, hello, everyone. I want to thank you, first of all, for having me here and for my deep learning. And I know many of your deep learning throughout the conference. And because I've seen all the student participation, I have to say I've been to now, I think, 28 countries. I've been to a lot of conferences. This is the most student participation that I've seen. And I think that shows that deep learning is already occurring here. So applause to you all. I'm here, and today is very special for me because this keynote is the last keynote that I get to give with my daughter, okay? And so I'm very excited about that. Unlike Royan, if you heard his keynote yesterday, we will not stop there. But it's very special for me. I'm coming from Texas, much like a very dear colleague that I admire a lot, Franz Davis, who you got to be inspired by on the first day. And we live very close to each other, so you were very fortunate to hear her. But I want to speak about the world that my daughter is going to grow up in, and also about the world that currently our students grow up in. And I want to start, like many of the speakers before me, and give you a very brief history of the technology and the changes that have come about. And I want to give it to you in the lens of my grandfather. So I think my mother is listening today, and it's her dad I'm talking about. But my grandfather was one of my heroes, and one of the reasons why is because he did really great things in spite of not having the ability to have the education that I had. And my grandfather got to live at a time when he heard most of his information, his news. A lot of his learning was from newspapers and also the radio. But then he went from there, and then he was able to see the first man walk on the moon on a TV set. And I think, wow, that must have been a really profound moment for him. And my mother tells me this story because he had one of the first barbershops, and he had it for 58 years, which is a really significant thing for Latinos. And I'm Latina. And my mom said when he got the calculator, he was super excited because that helped him run his business so much more smoothly. And our students, unfortunately, they don't get to feel this. They don't get to grow up and know what it was like before the internet. They don't know, they don't get that appreciation and that value because we give them devices when they're 2, when they're 1, and we say, oh, that's so cute, they're taking selfies. And yes, it is cute. But they're given these so freely, very powerful devices where they can connect with the world. They can spread messages around the world. And what we're not doing is sending the message, this is your privilege and this is your responsibility to transform the world. We didn't have this before. And because technology for a long time, devices, even with the internet, that wasn't allowed in schools. There's a generation of students who were never given this message. And it's had profound impacts on our values, on our traditions, on our routines. Right now, raise your device if you have a device with you. Okay? And I think that's wonderful. That's incredible because you're doing great things with it. But not all of our students have had that responsibility passed on. And these are just a few examples of how that's impacted us this far. Now, Hannah yesterday, I'm going to refer to her a lot in her keynote because she basically showed you a lot of things that I was going to talk about today. So you hear a lot me referring to her a lot. But I do want to give you some examples of the way, first, that it's changed our lives and our world. So our students today, they've changed our language. We have now words like tweet, flash mob, hashtag, and even tag. They've changed the meaning of words, and selfie. When you think of those words, it's not only that they're now in the dictionary, but also they have an impact of action, and it's viral action. So how many of you have actually taken a selfie? I've taken plenty of selfies every conference, okay? And so our students, our learners, have the ability that not only with changing the language, changing to where we use LOL or we use emoji and emoticons, but they have the ability that with each of those words is very powerful action that comes with it. Okay, wait, let me go back real quick. So including behavior like memes, okay? So I decided a while back that I was going to try and participate in some of these memes. I saw a high school student dancing on a car once, and I thought, what is this student, and what is what is he doing? You know, I want to know what it is. And then I started learning about flash mobs and memes, and one of them was the Harlem Shake. So at a conference, we decided to do this. Okay, let me go back real quick. And here we go.
And do the Harlem Shake.
Not me. Now, you don't have to worry because I'm not going to make you do this today, okay? But if you go to the workshop after, my partner, yesterday, he had his speech in Texas, and they did what's now called the mannequin challenge. So the Harlem Shake is no longer the in meme, it's the mannequin challenge. So when we go to the workshop, I think it would be much easier to be able to do it there, so you can still be part of something, okay? But there are other effects that are not so fun. And one of these is, and there's been a lot of talk in the workshops that I've gone to about digital literacy, about evaluating sources. And one Canadian study found that in thousands of medical papers, Wikipedia was cited. And so we think it's only our students, but actually this is the norm. This is what happens when we just give devices, when we give all this power, and we don't do, the teaching isn't behind it. And recently in news this week, Facebook has even talked about what is the responsibility of the fake news that is being spread there. What can they do about it? Because they found that millions of fake news stories were shared, especially during the US election. And people chose to believe them. They didn't actually care when people reported that this was fake news. They actually decided they were going to share it anyway because it aligned more to their beliefs. So now we share things and we do things, and we have different types of values when we do this. Hannah talked yesterday about bullying, and I think that that's one of the most significant impacts or profound impacts that we have today. And she did this amazing exercise where she had us all stand up. We knew someone who is bullied. But what's very alarming, and this is from young Canadians, is that 70% of the students who said, yes, I've been bullied, I've been called names, they basically said, it's not a serious problem. It's not a big deal. And that worries me more. Because how do we get, the question comes, is how do we get our students to feel that is not the norm? It is their responsibility to change the world and do something about it. So I think we take the first step. First of all, we show them some very powerful things that give them this connection. So what I want to show you next is a father, and some of it's in French. So I think this is really exciting because some of you know French in here. He created this website for his 16-year-old daughter who committed suicide because of bullying.
Je suis le papa de Louise. Et ce que vous voyez là, ce sont les messages que ma fille a reçus. Elle recevait des centaines de messages par jour. Je les ignorais, en espérant que ça s'arrête. Mais ça ne s'est jamais arrêté. Au bout d'un moment, c'est devenu insupportable. Aujourd'hui, les messages ne la touchent plus. Le 3 septembre 2014, Louise s'est suicidée. Elle avait 16 ans. Elle fait partie de nombreuses victimes du cyberharcèlement. Que ces tragédies ne se reproduisent plus.
Send very powerful messages to our learners. And I want to do something much like Hannah did yesterday in her keynote. But instead, I think one way we show responsibility is we have to model that. And what I'd like you to do is I would like you to stand if you've ever posted or shared or done something on your digital device that you would have felt ashamed of doing in person. And you notice I'm the one here first standing, and there have been plenty of times that I've done that. And I've been fortunate that in some social networks I've been able to delete that, but sometimes I haven't. So if you've ever done anything and you want to take responsibility and show our students, then please stand up. Anything that you weren't very proud of on social media. Well, thank you very much. And as our elder told us earlier, even if we're the ones who stand, if there's not many who stand, we still stand. And so our students, it's the same thing. We have to make them stand. We have to help them to own up to what is going on. And even if they get embarrassed, because obviously there are millions who are impacted by this. So there are some people who just don't want to take the responsibility because it's uncomfortable. And that's why I believe in this. I believe that deeper learning with technology or in this world is reminding and teaching our learners how to be going back and bringing back character education into the curriculum. I think it's going and teaching citizenship. And the only way that we can get our students to stop looking at a phone like this and to stop doing this so much, because that's still good, but we have to have some balance, like Royan talked about yesterday in his keynote. We have to learn when to put the devices, but also when to share with each other, or when to have a device and be able to do things together with it and have conversations, because that's all part of being human. And deeper learning is not only showing our students the possibilities of what they can do with technology, and if you go to the playground, you see plenty of possibilities. If you walk down the hallway, you can see tons of great, amazing technology out there, and our kids can code, and you've been able to see in this conference, they can use 3D printers and all these amazing things. But then not only showing them the possibilities, but the potential to uplift other people, to make a profound impact on the world, and also to be able to do the opposite, which is to destroy others, and to get them to make the choices that would make them feel better as a human being. And so that's giving them a responsibility and then helping them find a purpose. What is their purpose that they're going to chase after with the technology and do something great, even if it's just one project? And so I think part of that comes with us. When I decided to be a teacher, I decided to take on the mission and be part of the solution, just like all of you have been part of the solution to make the world a better place by helping our students become more empowered with technology. And at a conference like this, this message is still great, but many of you are already doing these wonderful, great things. You're empowering your students, and I'll show you some examples of that. But I think asking this question, how to be a great teacher now, we can ask a leader that you'll be very familiar with and get a few opinions of what he thinks. Oops, or maybe not. Oh. Okay, well, they didn't show my video, but but basically, if you look at the Twitter stream, you'll find the video, and it's Justin Trudeau. And he says that the elements to be a great teacher is actually curiosity and the ability to learn, and also not knowing all the answers. And I think that all of that is part of being a great teacher still. It's not that we need to know how to code, how to do 3D printing, augmented reality, and all of this. But I think just being curious about it, wanting to dive in, wanting to learn from our learners, and also being continuous learners. So it's a lot of the learning theories that we've learned in the past. I'm a huge fan of Vygotsky and some other learning theorists, but there are new theories that we need to study and research. Now, I was very excited because I've been paraphrasing Michael Fullan for quite a while. And when I was going through my app last week, I realized that he's actually going to be in a keynote panel later on. And so I'm very excited to learn from him and other keynote panelists. And if I didn't paraphrase this right, you can blame Steve Wheeler, Ting Bug Teeth, who introduced me to your wonderful writing, which is being tweeted right now as well. But I think all of these, it's not that you have to follow these theories. It's not like you have to do every step at the SAMR and feel like if you're not, then you're a bad teacher. But what they do is they give us a foundation. They give us ideas. They help us reflect on how we are using technology with our students. And these are some of your tech possibilities. My students have gotten to do a lot of these. They've gotten to do audio recordings, they've gotten, and this is just for this semester, they've gotten to create comics, learn with infographics. And it's not using tech for tech. The exciting part about it is with every single project, they post it in an online community. So we have face-to-face class, but they also, all their work they share online. We use Canvas. And the powerful thing about it is that the students get to learn about each other. They get to learn very personal things because my students share very personal things as well. And me, I think it's great because I walk out at the end of the semester and I know certain things about them that I would have never known about them if they hadn't posted online and shared their creations. You know, sometimes as a teacher, my students, even though I talk about technology, my students give me a lot of angst sometimes with technology. They still, you know, have a hard time putting their phones down. They do get off task at times. But the great thing about it is when I do see the great things that they do, it also humanizes it for me. It makes me think, okay, you know, they're taking it seriously, or they really enjoy this, or they're really engaged. So this is an interview one of my students did.
He's 21 years old, and the topic is the great question to anyone. And the first question is, who has been the most important person in your life? Can you tell me about him or her?
Yes, well, my most important person in my life is my young brother. He has Down syndrome, and he is really special for me. That's why I will to help him all my life.
Okay, thank you. The second question, what was the happiest moment of your life?
Well, when I was playing hockey in Baja California, Mexico, I went MVP in 2014.
That's awesome. Okay, the third question says, who has been the biggest influence on your life? What lesson did the person teach you?
Okay, her name is Silvia Perez, and she made me work more than I could. And now I'm very responsible, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. And the last one, what are the most important lessons you will be learning in your life?
To be honest, to be humble, to be responsible, to be better person.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
So it's not that it was a profound thing that he did, but what was really great is this is somewhat of my class clown here, and it was great to hear the personal side about him. I think the other students, they all get to hear this about him. They get to know this personal, deeper side about him. And then they all post feedback as well, and it brings them closer. Now, my students are English language learners, so they did achieve objectives as well. I mean, every lesson that you get to choose, every way that you get to design the curriculum and the choices you make will reach some kind of goal. Here they had, of course, the grammar focus, I could say questioning techniques, they developed listening skills, but the most important part that I got out of that was that relationship, that community, that they get to be responsible to each other, and when they comment and they create feedback with each other and support each other, they get to make a choice. I don't tell my students, okay, you have to choose to say something good, but they choose to say good things. They choose to really listen to the conversations that take place. So I think part of deeper learning is giving our students, not only showing them the possibilities, getting them to do lots of things, but showing them the potential and empowering them. So how do we show them the potential and empower our students? Well, here's some great examples, and Hannah gave some great ones yesterday as well. This was taken in Indiana, and they had a 3D printer. And I saw these two boys and had to do a workshop with STEM. And I said, well, you know, can you do me a favor and can you actually show the teachers, and I'll let you talk for a few minutes and tell us about 3D printing, because I'm not familiar with that, but that's very much a great part of STEM. And so the boy sitting in the back, I didn't get a picture of him speaking, but he was this phenomenal speaker. I throw a lot of free online conferences for teachers, and I have a lot of keynotes that are students. And so I wanted to ask him to be a keynote speaker because he was so great. And a teacher came up to me after and she said, this boy from our school, he's homeless. And he also, and she said, if you notice his shoes, they're typed up. And she says the only reason he stayed in school was because of this club, was because he gets to use the 3D printer. So you never know what profound effect or the impact that getting to use some of these great technology has on your students. The engagement, the encouragement that they get to use these amazing things. And our students, we can just get them to start solving problems. Like this student who 3D printed his own braces in college because he couldn't afford braces. He actually, if you read the article, which is being tweeted, he learned dentistry. He went through actually being mentored and asked a dentist if they would make sure his models were okay. And he went through all of this learning so he could be able to use the college 3D printer and save money for his braces. I thought that was pretty amazing. Or here we have a 15-year-old who last week at EmojiCon did a keynote. And emoji itself is amazing because it's in an international language we all understand. And that's something we speak on online. But this year and the year before has been the year of diversity with emojis. And it's just wonderful to see the impact that learners are having on creating this diversity. And then also someone from Ontario, who's an 8th grader, who's done really great, amazing things. And thanks to Brian Aspinall, one of his many mentors and teachers, and was a great speaker yesterday, who has empowered him, okay? And this is Austin Gagne. And Austin is coming out with the book soon. That's how empowered he is. But Austin has, because of Brian's support and mentorship, has actually taught other teachers and how to code in different workshops like that. And I think that's very humbling. I think that's very humbling that so many teachers are willing to learn from other students. And that's not too often very comfortable for us. So responsibility and purpose. How are other ways we can get our students to feel the impact, to really believe that they have the responsibility to better the world with technology? And one of the ways is by sending them on learning missions. So it's things as simple as taking something like a homework or a task and then saying instead, not homework, I'm giving you homework today, or I'm giving you this assignment or this task, but saying, I'm sending you on a learning mission. And so they can still learn about fractions, they can still learn science, math, literacy, all of this, but they use those skills to actually accomplish something. For example, here's one that I came up with my students. The mayor, you give them a situation, a story, a line, or some kind of problem, or have them investigate the problem as well. And then you create a mission. What is this going to accomplish? How is that going to better something? And it doesn't necessarily have to change the world, but it can accomplish. And with our students, it makes them feel empowered, like they're superheroes. And all levels of students like to feel like superheroes. You can give them digital badges as well. And a lot of this is just going from project-based learning to problem-based learning, to solving different problems that exist. So one project that I got my high school students to do was that they had to come up with a list of problems that they experienced as teenagers. And then they had to come up with a video to propose an app that would take care of and solve some of these problems. So I'll show you 2 examples of those. And this was in Slovenia.
I'm thirsty today, but I don't want to drink that water.
Oh, I have this new app that can change your drink.
Thank you!
Oh my god, I'm so ugly. Wait, there is an app for that.
So I think it's really really great that they get to have fun, because that's a human element as well, having fun with the technology. But they did get to list a lot of problems as well. There was a really great app that they had too, the Jackie Chan app, which was to combat cyberbullying. And so these moments are really great. Now, we can have a lot of projects that are fun, that help our students become creative to really think. And taking one of those projects, that's my mission to you, is just take one of those tasks, one of those projects, and get them to go the step beyond, and do something that really impacts their environment, their community around them. And so I met a teacher last week. I was in Ontario at another conference, and she talked about doing basically the same thing, about putting issues that were around them. And then she had them do a mind map. And then she simply asked the question, okay, you've learned all this knowledge about hunger, so what are you going to do about it? What do we do with this knowledge? And so her students actually came up with a plan.
Justice class, and we were learning about food insecurity. For our assignment, we wanted to help the people in Nunavut. Knowing the prices are very high, we decided to make a GoFundMe page to raise enough money to feed 4 families in Nunavut. You can access the page at www.gofundme.com and at /NR@HS Help Nunavut. We're happy you're interested in sharing it.
Tweeted the teacher's Twitter handle, Colleen KR, and also their GoFundMe page. But they created this GoFundMe page, and they've already fed 4 families in their community. So it doesn't have to be every single project that changes the world, but take one and let them decide and come up with a plan to do something. Because once they get through that situation, once you have a Hannah doing a keynote, or the dancers today, or them singing and doing all of that, then they have gone through the process of making other human beings and lives better. And that's transforming. They're going to carry that with them throughout their lives when they're the ones making the decisions. When they're the ones who someday become leaders of the country, they're going to carry all of that with them. And I think that's important. Another mission that I came up with was, and this is Venezuela, to have students invent hashtags to inspire positive action and change. And hashtags are one of the best ways that you can get your students to transform the world. They're one of the most important inventions that we've had. And it's because with a hashtag, you can use them on Facebook, you can use them on Twitter, you can use them on Instagram, and different places. The hashtag is a way that if you don't follow or friend each other, you can send messages to mass. You can make things go viral. You can make movements go viral. But I want to show you a video that kind of gets you to understand the culture of a hashtag. Oh, and these are some of the ones that they came up with.
Hey, Justin, what's up?
Not much, Jimmy. Hashtag chillin'. What's up with you?
Just been busy working. Hashtag rise and grind. Hashtag is it Friday yet?
Hey, check it out. I brought you some cookies. Hashtag homemade, hashtag oatmeal raisin, hashtag show me the cookie.
Sweet. Hashtag don't mind if I don't. Pretty good. Hashtag getting my cookie on. Hashtag I'm the real cookie monster. Hashtag no.
Delicious, right? Hashtag I did it all for the cookie. Hashtag LOL.
Hashtag classic. By the way, did you catch last week's episode of Duck Dynasty? Hashtag quack quack.
Nah, lately I've mostly been watching Netflix. Hashtag Orange is the New Black.
Oh, nice. I've been watching a lot of Barney the Dinosaur. Hashtag Purple is the New Black. Hashtag I love you, you love me, we're a happy family. Hashtag I'm 38. Hashtag dinosaurs. Hashtag how do they go extinct? Hashtag meteor. Hashtag Ice Age. Hashtag speaking of Ice Age, I just watched Ice Age on demand the other day. Hashtag funny. Hashtag Ray Romano. Hashtag Deborah. Hey, by the way, Halloween's only like a month away.
I know.
I mean, do you know where you're gonna be at? Hashtag life decisions, hashtag sexy ghost.
I think I'm gonna go as a Ninja Turtle. Hashtag gotta be Raphael. Hashtag Leonardo sucks. Hashtag the turtle, not the Italian Renaissance painter. Hashtag Mona Lisa. Hashtag Is she smiling? Hashtag speaking of smiling, I just saw my dentist. Hashtag bling, hashtag dental care, hashtag cavity free, hashtag that's how we do. Hashtag we go hard, hashtag and we can't stop.
Hashtag we won't stop.
Hashtag we run this.
Hashtag true players for life.
Hashtag is it worth it or let me work it.
Hashtag put my thing down, flip it, then reverse it.
Hashtag hashtag
Okay. So hashtags can be used in several different ways. And for you to experience the power of the hashtag, if you're on Twitter or another social network, or even if you're not, you can even Google a hashtag. And you don't even have to be part of Twitter or any social network. It's going to show you the resources, the communication, the messages on that hashtag. So my mission for you today, my missions, is to search on one of these hashtags. So you can get connected with the educators first at this conference. You can see the great things that they're sharing, because there's some workshops, there's some presentations that you didn't get to go to. And the great thing is, on these hashtags, they share their slides. They share their resources. You'll get to meet bloggers who talk and are very transparent. They show what they do in their classroom every day. You get to follow them, share their work. You get to connect with them. And if you want to learn more about integrating technology, mobile learning, e-learning, any of those, there's a hashtag for that. And finally, I'm going to end with my story, okay? Because I was very fortunate, and many of the kids, the examples you see today, and the kids that you've seen on stage, and the many that you hear about, I think those are great, great stories. I think that they are showing that they had deeper learning. They're showing that there was an adult, somebody who supported them, and who also passed on the message at some point that said, here's a device, this is, or here's the internet, it's very powerful, and you can do amazing things, you can better your world. And these are great examples of students who have. And I was very fortunate that my parents, my family, my mother, my dad, were like this. So my dad's, his parents didn't get to go, they dropped out of school when they were 11 and 12. And my father had his 5 daughters. He decided every day, he told us, you're going to graduate from college. Even though this had never happened before, even though he didn't know how to do this, but he passed on a responsibility. He passed on a message to us and empowered us. And so now all 5 of us have graduated. But it's not only that. It's every time that I on Facebook and get to connect with my family, my aunts and uncles have done the same. So now what they've done is they've actually ended they've actually perpetuated a new generational cycle, where now my cousins and then my daughter is going to grow up, and it's going to be, what college is she going to? And we have all of this excitement. But there was years and years in my generation that never happened. And so I think that it's important that as teachers, as educators, we take this very, our mission when we signed up for this. We were given a mission. There was something inside of us that decided, hey, you were meant for being a teacher. And the reason I say that is because teachers aren't always necessarily respected. Teachers don't really get vacations, even though they say we do. Teachers work very hard. They don't get paid enough. So there was something inside you that said, hey, this was meant for you. And it's because we are part of the solution to helping our learners better their world. And so the last mission I give you is to make sure that we pass on this responsibility and this purpose with our students, that we take all the deep learning that we have and make it deeper for our students by getting them to do something powerful with the technology, even if it's only one project, even if it's feeding one family that's in, even if it's getting them to wear pink shirts and all stand together to protect to protect each other. And I think that this will give us a very, very powerful statement as well. And to end also, because when when I think about this message, it wasn't because someday I'm going to do this with my daughter. That's going to happen. I'm going to give her a device at an appropriate time that I feel, even though I'm a tech evangelist, and let her know her privilege and also her responsibility. But also, I want her to grow up in a different world than the world that it is today. I don't want 70% of students to think it's okay to bully each other. I don't want us to think that we're going to spread news just because it aligns to our beliefs. And some expert says they also believe it, but they don't give any facts to justify it. So I want us to be better than that. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's been a great, great privilege of mine. And you can connect with me on Twitter. And you can also find more information. Hopefully, you will join me in my mannequin challenge later on in my workshop. Thank you very much. I know there are some questions here. I'm taking it, I'm supposed to answer these questions. Okay, so what app or extension are you using? Oh, okay, well, I used TweetDeck, and yesterday I scheduled these tweets. You're welcome. Do you have another question? And TweetDeck is free. Let's see. I don't think they have another one. Sure.
Can I talk real loud? Is there anti-bullying? Meaning, if you're looking at your friend's post and there's like mean things being said, if you say something to counteract, does that help?
That's a very good question. When I used to give this message, I used to say, okay, let's do lots of good to combat all of the values and the negativity out there and things like that. And I heard something that said, it's not for combating, because we can never erase all of that, but it's to make sure that there's a balance out there and also to get students to do it. So my niece, she's a great example. When she sees someone on getting told, oh, you don't look so great on a picture or something like that, she'll come back and say, or if they say it themselves, she'll come back and she'll say, no, you look great. Don't say that about yourself. And I think that's very powerful, especially if students are willing to stand up. But as far as like making it the solution, it doesn't combat, it won't end that. Because some of those who bully will become trolls. And so what it does, though, is it does empower the learner, but it still has to be with character education. I really think that that has to be embedded. So that's a really great question. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. You can tweet me. You can tweet me later.